Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Movie Battleground. Today, we have two amazing competitors going up against it to discuss some great questions for you. We have Caleb Boatman versus Andy Wood, an exciting match for you. I am your host and lead judge for this match, Joe Harrison, but I am not alone. I have an amazing panel of judges with me. First, I have my timekeeper, Matt Graham. Matt Graham, what are your thoughts on this match?
Well, I am excited to see how these two compete. I've read over the questions. They're extremely entertaining, and I can't wait to see these two fight it out.
All right, that's what we like to hear. And now I will go to Tony Heel. Tony, what are your thoughts? How are you feeling today, man?
I am feeling hot as balls. It's really hot over here in the UK, which may affect Andy. But I think it's going to be a really interesting match. You have two people that are very talented in this and show a lot of knowledge of it. It's a case of who can really just define it a tiny bit better, who can really get that point in across. Because I think there is very close shavings between the two of them as to who's the better on paper.
All right, that is something like to hear. But now let's hear from our competitors. Caleb, how are you feeling about this match?
I'm good. I don't really feel the need to talk too much. It's like I'm just ready to play. Let's do this.
All right. Andy, how are you feeling about this match? Are you excited? Because we're excited.
I'm excited, and all I can say, I really hope Caleb continues to not feel like talking too much. That would be hugely advantageous to me personally. So, Caleb, if that's your game plan, roll with it, mate. Happy with that. Let's go.
All right. So without further ado, let me just quick run down the rules. We will have 3 main round prepared questions that these competitors got in advance. The main round will work like this. Each competitor will get a 90-second opening, followed by 5 minutes of free-form open debate, and after that, they will get 1 minute closing. Each competitor also has a chance to extend either their opening argument or their closing argument by 1 minute. They can use this one time throughout the entire match. And if they do so, then they will vocalize to us, and we will make sure that they get it. The reason we don't have it in the freeform debate is this is for your advantage, not to, say, give the minute to the freeform debate, and then your opponent steals it, and you just wasted your extension. So no more helping out your opponent because you want to win. And then we will, if we need to go to a speed round, I will explain the rules of the speed round once we get there. If we need to get there, competitors, are you ready?
Yep.
All right. We will go to Caleb first on the first question. And the first question is, what is the best improv done by an actor in a movie? Caleb, your 90 seconds will begin when you start talking.
I'm going with an incredibly impactful moment in my film that was done by an improvisation. It wasn't planned. It wasn't in the script. I'm going with the funny how scene from Goodfellas. It's Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta. They're in the restaurant, that bar restaurant, and Ray Liotta says, "Hey, I think you're a funny guy. You're a funny guy." And then Joe just goes, "Funny? How am I funny? What's so funny about me?" And the entire tone of the scene shifts. It gets into this moment of tension. You feel like we don't know what's going on. We've seen that Tommy DeVito can be incredibly violent. Is he going to be violent towards Henry Hill? Is he going to be, offended? What is going to happen? And then he flips it on his head and goes, "I almost had you. I almost had you." Because it was actually just a joke. But that incredible moment of tension.
30 seconds.
Moment of the character, and it's probably the reason why Pesci won the Oscar. I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right, Caleb going with Joe Pesci, funny how from Goodfellas. Now let's see what Andy's choice is with Andy's opening, and Andy, your 90 seconds will begin when you start talking.
Yep. First of all, Caleb, spot on Pesci impression, you could intimidate a man just as well. Don't you worry about that. I'm going back to 1966 and the immortal Western The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and an improvised scene in particular where Eli Wallach's character Tuccio, he has been up against it for a little while in this film. He walks into a gun shop and starts playing around with the instruments, threatening the gun shop owner, really beginning his persona in the film. Now, Eli Wallach didn't know anything about guns when he was doing this scene. He had to completely improvise everything he was doing with no knowledge of the props around him at all. And despite this, he improvises a scene where his character conveys terror.
30 seconds.
Persona, thank you. Threatening persona, and kind of shifts the whole dynamic of his character from beaten down to he's running the show now. He's back, and he is going to cause some shit. And to do that when you don't actually have a clue what's going on is mighty impressive. So, Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Eli Wallach, gun shop scene, that is my pick for the best improv.
All right, we have the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The gun shop scene going up against Funny How from Goodfellas. Will this be an ugly fight? Only time will tell. Gentlemen, your 5 minutes of open debate will begin whenever one of you starts talking.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in here with what I think is the biggest criticism of your scene. I love the movie Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I don't remember this scene whatsoever. It's not a very memorable scene. I think there are more memorable scenes with all the other characters. I think it's not even the most memorable Tuco scene in your movie. Everybody remembers Goodfellas, Funny How.
Okay, I would like to question how legitimately improvised your scene actually is. So Joe Pesci recounted this from a story when he said that exact line to a mobster in his childhood. He recounted this story at the script reading. So the cast, Ray Liotta, Martin Scorsese, they knew about this story. So they talked beforehand about including this scene in the script. So it's not that massively improvised. People know what's going on.
Okay.
Whereas obviously Eli Wallach is going completely blind. He has nothing. No, he's literally just been told, do whatever you want in a place where he has no background whatsoever. So,
are you sure it was a script reading? I don't believe it was a script reading. I thought from my research, he talked to Martin Scorsese. He told it to Scorsese. So it was planned with Pesci, but it was not planned with Liotta or anyone else. Nobody else knew what was going to happen. It was just Pesci, and that's where you feel the tension and all that. And even then, we're talking about best moment. It wasn't in the script, so it was technically improvised. We're not talking about most improvised moment. We're talking about best improvised moment. That's the question here. And again, nobody remembers your gun scene. I don't remember that scene very well. I rewatched it for this match, and I was just like, yeah, he's shooting with guns. Okay, this doesn't have an impact.
Sure. So Ray Liotta did know about it because it was at, I think, the TIFF festival introduction for the film, where he actually mentions in an interview about Pesci telling the story at the script reading. So Ray Liotta absolutely knew about it. So this wasn't a complete surprise to him. He was very well aware of this story. So it's actually is questionable, the amount of improvisation. We're also not talking, we're talking about the best improvisation by an actor. We're not talking about the most memorable improvised scene in a film.
No,
so
it's best improv. The question is best improv in a movie by an actor. It is about the best scene. It is not about what is the most improv. If you want to go most improv, go for like a Mike Leigh film where all the dialogue is improvised. Go for something like that. That's not the question. We're talking about the scenes. What is the best scene? It doesn't matter if it's not 100% improvised, which I'm not sure you're factually accurate on this one, but even if you are, it's not about what's the most improvised. It's about the best scene. Again, nobody remembers your gun shop scene.
Okay, if you want to fact check me, the bit about the Liotta interviews off the Business Insider, so if anyone wants to fact check that one, they are more than welcome to. And yes, Joe read it as best improvisation done by an actor. Eli Wallach, who is one of the greatest character actors of all time, came into this, and it's such a pivotal scene in the film. Eli Wallach's character Tucho has been down on his knees prior to this. He's been sort of left for dead and abandoned by Blondie. He's been built up to be kind of a stoogey character behind Blondie all the way through. Then he rocks up, he enters this gun shop, and all of a sudden, the dynamic completely shifts. He goes from being this sort of broken down, on his knees, almost pathetic character, and then all of a sudden, he is the boss. He is causing havoc. He is scaring people. He is out for revenge, and every part of the acting, which is being done with minimal direction, is conveying this sense of, okay, we've got an actual badass on our hands now. We've got an actual conflict. We've got a character who's going to change the dynamics of this entire film. It's, you know, it's a long film. Maybe you don't remember it because of that. But in terms of how important is the script, it changes the whole character complexities.
Okay, I do want to chime in about the improvised. So the Goodfellas funny house scene, from what I've got right here, it was
30 seconds.
Improvised in rehearsal. It was improvised in the rehearsal. It just wasn't exactly improvised on film, but it was improvised in the rehearsal. But the tensity of that moment, you can feel it, everything. It is improvised. The dialogue, the funny how that was improvised. They just didn't get that exact, you know, moment, but it was improvised by the
rehearsal. That's where script rewrites happen. So that really opens the floor to multiple scenes in multiple movies being improvised. It's kind of a slippery slope argument you just made there.
Time.
All right, we will now go to closing arguments. Since Caleb started this round, we will go to Andy first for Andy's closing. Andy, you have 1 minute on the clock. Your 1 minute will start whenever you start talking.
Yeah, like I say, Eli Wallach was absolutely incredible in this scene. He conveys character-changing moments in one of the greatest films of all time. He brings a whole new conflict and a whole new dimension to it, with the instructions simply being, do whatever you want. It's incredible, impressive work from a legendary actor. Yes, during rehearsals in your film, in Goodfellas, they came up with this line, but that's not the same level of expectation. The two lead actors know about it, the director know about it, they can tell what's going to happen. It's the same as any procedural shoot saying, actually, we'll do this instead. Very normal things happen on film sets. What's ended up is a great result, but it's not truly improvisational work. Thank you. Time.
All right, strong closing from Andy. Let's see what Caleb will be able to bring up in his closing. Caleb, your 1 minute will begin when you start.
I think Joe Pesci did come up with it. We can't deny that Joe Pesci came up with it. Martin Scorsese has still described it as improvised. It is an improvised moment. But I think we're getting bogged down with that, and I think you want me to get bogged down with that because, let's be real, you haven't actually been able to target anything about the scene itself, because the scene itself is fantastic. It's memorable. It's tense. It's what won Joe Pesci's Oscar. Joe Pesci did come up with it, so it is improvised. It's not what happened on
30 seconds
because it wasn't in the script. It wasn't a rewrite. It was come up with by Joe Pesci. And I think your scene, it's not memorable. I don't think it's even that pivotal. I think there are better Tuco moments. The moments where he saves, or Eastwood saves him from being hanged, is a better Tuco moment. It's not the best Tuco moment in the movie. I think it's not that memorable. Nobody talks about it. Everybody talks about Funny How from Goodfellas. I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right. That was a great round one. Great arguments by both competitors. Let's go to the judges. I'm going to go to Tony first on this one. Tony, can you make some sense of this for me? What's left? What's right? What's up? What's down? Who's getting your point?
Yeah, I think it was interesting that both of them went for the more dramatic scenes rather than comedic, which you would think more of improvised. I think this all really came down to the question of what does count as improvised and what is written. Because I pulled up the Business Insider thing that both Andy and Caleb mentioned. And the line is here: the distinction here between the scene and typical improvisation, if it was improvised in rehearsal, Scorsese then wrote it into the script. So I think because of that, it's I would say it's not improvised. They workshopped it together, then it was put in. So I'm gonna have to give my point to Andy.
All right, we have 1 point for Andy. I'm now going to go to Matt for this one. Matt, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
I'm actually thinking the other way. Officially, when the script was finished, that scene wasn't in it. And during rehearsal, Joe Pesci laid out the scene, and it was so improvised but so successful in the scene that they did add it. And Caleb kept pointing out that, it might have been improvised, but your scene wasn't as influential to it as mine was. So I think Caleb gets the point, in my opinion.
All right. So we are all locked up. 1 point, 1 vote for Andy, 1 point for Caleb, meaning it all comes down to me. Ugh. So I'm going to, and the wording of the question is best improv done by an actor in a motion picture. To me, I think Caleb was able to bring a little bit more, especially when he brought up that Pesci was able to win the Academy Award for it, and he said that this scene was what he believes elevated to him, and that was kind of a really good argument he had. Andy was able to bring up it was a character-defining moment, but he brought more about the character and not the actor or the improv itself. So for that reason, I'm going to have to give it to Caleb for this one. So Caleb's going to get the first point. He strikes first. But we still have 2 more prepared questions in this, so it's still anybody's game. And with that being said, let's move on right to our second question. Our second question is, who is the worst director of the 1960s? We are going to go to Andy first on this one. Andy, your 90 seconds will begin whenever you start talking.
Okay, yeah, hell of a question. So I am going to go to a director called Coleman Francis. For context, I will read you out the 3 feature films that he directed through the 1960s, along with IMDb score. They are The Beast of Yucca Flats, IMDb score 2.1. The Skydivers, IMDb score 2.8. And Night Train to Mundo Fire, IMDb rating 2.6. Now, IMDb is easily hijacked. Film fans have different opinions on things, and they can kind of be lost to trends, for example. So you kind of need to actually watch his films to know why they're so bad. And I'm going to continue now to use films with inverted sort of quote marks, because they really do not justify themselves as pieces of cinema. They are amateurly edited. The
30 seconds.
hired are clearly not professional actors. The production value is non-existent. Everything about them just screams B-movie, but without the enjoyable aspects that makes B-movies so loved. He was barely a director. His films are garbage. Coleman Francis was director of the 1960s.
All right, Coleman Francis is Andy's pick. Let's hear what Caleb has to say with his pick and his opening argument. Caleb, your 90 seconds begin whenever you start talking.
Okay, I'm trying to get the name of my guy because that's how forgettable this guy is, because I forgot his name for a second. I'm going with a director who goes by the name of Frank Tashlin. Frank Tashlin is this gentleman's name, and he directs a lot of bad, annoying Jerry Lewis comedies. Now, I'm not saying anything against Jerry Lewis. The Nutty Professor is a good classic comedy, but there's a reason that you don't really hear or talk about these trash Jerry Lewis comedies that Frank Tashlin has directed, because they're on that level where they're not memorable. They're not memorable, but they're also incredibly annoying. It's really weird. They're annoying enough, but they're not memorable enough to make an impression. It's that kind of deadly Venn diagram where they're just somewhere in that void. It's like the line from Yesterday. I hated it.
30 seconds.
I hated it, but I didn't care enough to find out why. That's what these movies are. You hate them, but they don't leave enough of an impact to find out why, but they're an unpleasant experience to watch. They're bad, unfunny comedies, and there are better vehicles for Jerry Lewis if you want to watch a Jerry Lewis movie. I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right, 2 bad directors. 2 just, I don't even want to watch any of the films that either of them brought up. So we will now go to our 5 minutes of freeform debate, which will begin when one of our competitors.
Okay, Frank Tashlin is historically regarded as one of the most pioneering animation directors in history. He's worked briefly with Disney, but particularly his work on Looney Tunes makes him regarded as one of the finest animation minds in history. When it reached the 1960s, he decided to make the jump to live action. Wikipedia describes that at this stage, his films lost some of their spark, hardly a massive beatdown for the work that he's creating. And it's probably true that it wasn't as good as what came before, but he was more of an experimental director where things didn't quite work out for them.
Okay.
And a lot of what he did with bring his cartoon elements into live action have since been appropriated really well by Terry Gilliam and Brad Bird. So
okay, well let's talk about this for a second. I have never seen a Wikipedia article comment on the quality of a director, and the fact that they even say his films lost some spark, like in a factual Wikipedia article where they're trying to be factual, they lost some spark. Yeah. And it doesn't matter that he was a Looney Tunes director. That wasn't in the 60s. That wasn't feature films. We're talking about his feature film work. We can't worry about that other stuff. It's worst director of the 1960s. His probably most known film, even if you can say known, is Cinderfella, which is like, haha, it's Jerry Lewis, but he's Cinderella. And he's Cinderfella, and that's the whole joke of the movie. It's one joke. It's annoying. I don't think you've had the displeasure of watching any of these movies. I've had. They are bad. Your guy, Coleman, he was working with no budget. He didn't have anything to really work with. If he would have been given a big star like Jerry Lewis or some big budget or anything like my guy's doing, he probably could have done some good work, but he's not working with a budget. You can't judge it by that.
No, there's absolutely no proof to suggest that Coleman Francis could work with a budget or a star. His films were financed by a very obscure man, I think a returning army officer, who decided he wanted to act in his films. There's a couple of scenes in The Beast of the Upper Flats which kind of highlight just how bad these films are. One, for example, the 2 characters are in a desert, and at one point they decide to sort of walk off in the distance for no reason. They then stand indiscriminately in the distance whilst the sound of their conversation is edited over the natural sound of the scene. This then happens later on when 2 characters disappear inside a house, and again, you hear mumbling inside the house, and then the editing of a conversation. Clearly, all the sound was added in post-production. This isn't filmmaking. This is amateur dramatics that he is doing. Jerry Lewis, critics kind of agree, and fans, that he is actually one of the better, even you said yourself, you don't dismiss him. He's considered one of the greater comedic minds in the 1960s. He described Frank Tashlin as his teacher. So if you know, they've made 4 films together in the 1960s. Jerry Lewis is one of the best comedians of the 1960s, and he's been taught by Frank Tashlin. How are Frank Tashlin films worse than a man who was barely making films?
Okay, well, first off, I want to describe your scene. Your scene honestly made me want to go get a bunch of my buddies together, like on a Friday night, and we go watch this and we make fun of it. Like, it sounds like yours was enjoyable. I'm not going to get my buddies together and watch Cinderfella or any of his other Frank Tashlin's terrible movies because they're trying to be funny and failing. Your guy, there's no proof that he would work better with a better budget, but there's no proof that he wouldn't either. He's not given a chance. If I told you, okay, here's very little money, go make a movie and I want to star in it like an army general, like, you're not going to make a good movie. Nobody can make a good movie under those circumstances. That's very, very hard. There's a reason why Michael Mann's kind of original idea for Heat didn't really work. It was a TV movie and it didn't work because he was given no budget. And then he turned Heat into a full-blown movie, and it worked really well. To say on
30 seconds.
Jerry Lewis complimented Frank Tashlin. Okay, he's his friend. He's going to compliment his friend. He's going to compliment his friends.
Yeah, because he nurtured him into one of the greater filmmakers, one of the better comedic filmmakers in the 1960s. You have to have a level of ability to do that. Films have been made for barely any budget. In the Company of Men was made for £50,000. That's considered one of the better indie hits of the 1990s. And at least some people try. Coleman Francis didn't even have the
time.
That is time. Time on the round. Whoa. These two are really heated, which is what we like to see. Andy might be heated because of how hot it is where he's living. Caleb has some AC. Not sure what that's going on, but we will now go to our closing argument. I'm going to go to Caleb first on this one. Just a quick preface. Both competitors still have their extension. They can either use it during this round or the next round, and if they don't, then it goes away forever. They'll never get it back. But with that being said, Caleb, your 60 seconds will begin whenever you start speaking.
Yes, there have been instances where a low-budget filmmaker is able to do it, but a lot of that stuff is in the 90s. When you're talking about the 60s, when a army general, as you said, orders you basically, make a movie, I want to star in it, you would not make a good movie. Nobody would make a good movie under those specific circumstances. Sure, Jerry Lewis might have complimented Frank Tashlin, but that doesn't make the movies better. You're just basing it off of things in interviews, not about the actual quality of the movie. It's
30 seconds.
Incredibly annoying. Jerry Lewis is doing his high-pitched voice gag, but not with actually any substance or punchline or anything like that. They're very one-joke movies. They really don't work. Your guy, I would watch those movies if I was looking for like a fun B-movie on a Friday night. I would never watch a Frank Tashlin movie.
All right, we have Caleb's final thoughts, so now we are going to go to Andy with his closing argument. Andy, your 60 seconds will begin whenever you start talking.
I don't think it's really justification for a movie to say that the reason it's good is because you and your friends can laugh at it. That doesn't make it a good movie. That makes it particularly bad. Frank Tashlin, he was an experimental director. Did it always work out? No, but it helped pioneer a lot of other careers. And what he did with these quick cut animated gags in live action movies has stood the test of time, even if he hadn't quite perfected himself. Coleman Francis was, to put it nicely, he was the room filmmaker of the 60s. No production value, no acting, scripts made up on the spot, dialogue added in post-production. These aren't films. They do not qualify as that. Frank Tashlin, whose films rarely even get below a 6 score on IMDb, they're still relatively popular to some crowds. He's trying, and he's actually making decent stuff. And Coleman Francis is kind of shitting on a projector screen.
Time.
All right. What a great round two. It's always fun when we're talking about the worst because we can just, shit on stuff for 5 minutes or however long we want to. But let's go to our judges. I'm going to go to Matt first on this one. Matt, what are your thoughts and who's going to be getting your point?
Oh, this was a round. This literally, going over my notes, this is really, really hard to decide. But I think Caleb brought up something that really wasn't hit on, is that that you can have a great actor be in a bad movie, and just because you've got that good actor doesn't mean the movie is going to be good. So just by a very close margin, I think I'm going to have to give it to Caleb.
All right, so we have one vote for Caleb. I'm going to go on this one, and I'm actually going to side with Andy on this one. I think he was able to bring up a little bit on why Frank Teshin was just he failed at what he was doing, but it was kind of helped out, but it wasn't really that bad. While his movies are kind of really unwatchable, and that his director just kind of was a little bit didn't really make films. They were kind of like not even films to begin with, but Frank Christian helped other people's careers and does have some decent movies. So I'm going to go Andy on this one, which means we are going to go to Tony to break this tie.
Right, so this is an interesting one because it's very two different ideologies, pretty much what we're thinking of. Is it a film that's so bad it's bad, or is it a film that wastes its potential is worse? Like, from what Andy was saying, there was a lot of, like, it was a terrible film, it was all this, like, XYZ. There's a lot more that could be attributed to why the film is bad rather than bad directing. It's bad production, bad producing, so on and so forth. Whereas Caleb made it very clear they had the potential to be great. They had Jerry Lewis, they had this, they had that, but it was the directing that really shut the bed there. So I think I've got to go with Caleb.
All right, Caleb goes up 2-0, but Andy is still in it as we move to our third question, which is a fun question, and I'm excited for this one. Our question is, which sci-fi movie character would you want to set free from being held captive at Area 51? We're going to go to Caleb first on this one. Caleb, who are you setting free? And your 90 seconds will begin whenever you start talking.
Well, I guess it's my move, creep. I'm going to go with RoboCop. I'm going to break in to Area 51 with my boys, all the army of Kyles. We're going to go in there shouting Leroy Jenkins, and we're going to go in and we're going to break out RoboCop. Because RoboCop, he's a good guy. He's not going to hurt you. He's RoboCop. He's the best police officer there is. And let's be real. We're in the United States. There are not always situations, I don't want to get too political, where the police are acting the way that the police should. I think we're not going to have, with RoboCop, if we have him as our chief of police, you've got a guy who's not going to bring in emotions or of, like, you know, personal biases or prejudice or racism or anything like that. No, he's going to follow the law to the letter. And I respect that. That's why I'm breaking RoboCop out of Area 51. I yield the rest of my time.
All right, Caleb's going to be breaking out the strong arm of the law. Now let's hear who Andy is going to be breaking out. Andy, your 90 seconds will begin whenever you start talking.
Okay, so I'm going to Area 51. We've broken in. It's been a good time. You know, RIP to the fallen, but, you know, we made it there. I want my rewards. I want my rewards to be a friend for life. Someone who will never leave my side, protects me in all circumstances, and gives pretty good cuddles as well. So I am rescuing Chewbacca. We're going to form a life bond. It's going to be amazing. I'll crack on with the arguments.
All right, we have RoboCop and Chewbacca. This is going to be an interesting round. Your 5 minutes will begin whenever one of you starts talking.
Andy, can I ask you a question?
Please, Caleb.
Do you speak Wookiee?
Yeah.
So. I didn't think so.
Yeah, I do.
You don't speak Wookiee. Do you remember in Solo when Solo meets Chewbacca and they're talking? Chewbacca is going to kill and eat Solo. He's going to eat Han. He's going to kill him. You know what happens? Solo's able to communicate to him. I don't think you're able to stop that. I think the second you go into Area 51 where Chewbacca's all chained up, he's going to try to hurt and kill you because he won't understand you and you can't understand him. You can't talk to Chewbacca. RoboCop speaks English. He is a human. He is Alex Murphy.
So obviously Han Solo was kind of thrown in as bait, so it was pretty easy for Chewbacca to mistake him for food. I'm going in as a rescuer, so he's a smart lad. He'll be able to understand that I'm rescuing him. RoboCop also speaks death. as well as English, he speaks deaf. Now, you're right, the USA is politically charged and in a bit of turmoil, so I'm not sure the brutal regime that he would bring around, in the words of law enforcement, is really what you need. If you want devastation and societal upheaval, that's absolutely fine, but the blood's on your hands, Caleb.
I don't think you've seen RoboCop, Andy, because that's not what RoboCop does. I'm gonna guess you haven't actually seen it. He only kills people who are like hurting other people. Like he kills the attempted rapist, he kills that guy, but he has the 4 prime directives. He's not gonna. One of his directives is he's not going to hurt anybody who isn't breaking law or trying to kill anybody else. He's not going to kill you if you're a good person. I think Chewbacca, you run into Area 51, he's not going to understand. He's going to think you're food or bait or trying to hurt him. He's a scared animal. He's chained up in a cage in Area 51. He's going to hurt you. RoboCop is a robot who will understand what is going on, and he can't hurt anybody unless they go for a crime like murder.
RoboCop does have 4 primary objectives, but in the real world, they're far too binary for an AI-human mix to actually compute. Either the AI is incapable of making the deferential decisions required to effectively uphold these 4 primary objectives, or the emotional human side is going to kick in and break them because he's whittled down to emotion rather than logic. So effectively,
you can't bring the real world into this. You can't do that because you're asking to bring in a Wookiee, which is a fictional thing. You can't talk about the real world. I'm talking about the rules of the movie RoboCop and the way RoboCop in the movie.
Okay, we can try and apply it to the real world, though. And in the real world, it's far too complex for a machine to be able to determine what the natural law is. Humans have been debating that for hundreds of years and still can't work it out. In the real world, Chewbacca's a good person. He's capable of understanding when he is being set free. He knows the Area 51 guards have been trying to hurt him, and also displayed this sort of behavior for ages. You made a positive correlation with the things that you get rewards for.
Yeah, and he hasn't been rewarded. He's been chained up in Area 51 for the longest time. He hasn't been rewarded. He's been poked at, prodded, tested, all this stuff. Nobody in Area 51's a good guy. They're all bad people. He's going to see human equals bad and try to kill you. Again, you're applying these real-world artificial intelligence things. That's not according to the movie RoboCop. We are playing with the rules at which the characters play in within their fictional world. If we are bringing characters in from the fictional world into our world, we can't apply by the rules of our world. We've got to apply by the rules of the fictional worlds.
No, because if they're in our world, they have to apply by the rules of our world. That's the world they're in.
Okay, by the rules of our world, Chewbacca doesn't exist. Boom.
Okay. By the rules of our world, where Area 51 exists and holds aliens, not only does Chewbacca exist, but he is more emotionally intelligent than a machine. He's able to figure out where he's coming from. He's able to figure out who a friend is.
By the rules of our world, RoboCop is a super advanced AI. He's a super advanced AI that can do things that we didn't know AI could do.
He is super enhanced AI that's being given impossible questions to compute, which will eventually break his system. He's also very liable to emotionally go against these rules and kill lots of people, causing civil war again in the USA.
Time.
All right, these guys both really want to free their friends. They both have solid choices, both argued them very well. We will go to Andy first for his minute closing. Andy, your minute will begin whenever you start talking, but I would like to remind you that this is your last chance to use your extension if you want to.
Yeah, I'm not just breaking my friends out. I'm breaking my best friends out, my friends for life out. Someone who's going to be by my side the whole time. Will it be an immediate gratification? Of course not. We work on these things. That's how relationships go. But he's going to be by my side. I don't need to weaponize him. I've got no interest in doing that. RoboCop is pretty much weaponized from the get-go. So I don't have bloodshed on my hands, but I do have a big, fuzzy, furry friend for all the days to come. No one gets
30
hurt.
seconds.
You evil guards, stop animal testing.
We will now go to Caleb for his minute closing. As I just mentioned to Andy, this is your last chance to use that minute extension if you so choose.
I don't need it. Okay, so let's talk about first your arguments with RoboCop. We got to apply by the rules of the film RoboCop. I don't think you've seen the movie RoboCop. The rules of the movie RoboCop is he has those 4 prime directives. He's going to follow them. He can't break them. Even if he wants to, he can't break them, but he is going to follow the 4 prime directives, which means he's not going to fall into all this destruction, murder, and chaos. He's going to be the police officer that we as a nation need right now. But let's talk about Chewbacca, because I do think that's an interesting
30 seconds.
Is not only, I think it's going to be tough just getting Chewbacca out of Area 51, because he's going to think you are a bad person because he equates humans with bad people. You get him out in the street, he's going to start attacking everybody. But let's say that's not the case. He's going to be looking for Han. That's his best friend. That's who he's going to be looking for. He's going to be looking for Han. That's his friend. That's who he cares about. He doesn't care about you. He wants Han. Yield.
Han's dead.
Hey, you can't talk. This is my time.
So
No, you have to discount that from the
we will
record.
we will discount Han is dead. We will not take that in consideration as we go to the
Spoilers.
I will go first on this one. I am going to have to give it to Caleb. Caleb was able to bring up how just a little bit about how you really can't communicate with Chewbacca because he's a Wookiee and just what's being done to him in there. He's going to just be kind of looking for food. He's not really going to trust humans. And he brought up how the prime directions cannot be broken. There was something that would have sent me to Andy, but Andy never brought it up, and that is RoboCop upholds the law, and breaking into a military base is against the law, but that was never brought up. So Caleb is getting my point for this one. And we will go to Tony for his thoughts.
So at the end of the day, the question is, which would you rather release on the world? Bigfoot or a killer robot? It feels like I've got to go with Andy. I think Caleb did make some good points, but I think it was just a case that it's taking the law. So a person that will take the law into their own hand, that will not give people due process. I was there just like I was waiting for him to see, because the rules of RoboCop, they wouldn't really work in day-to-day life. Like people deserve a trial on that jazz.
All right, so we once again split decision every round. We're going to go to Matt for his final decision. Will we be going to a speed round, or will Caleb win via knockout? Let's find out right now.
Well, this was interesting. In the words of Tony, would we rather have a robot come out who can protect people, or the Bigfoot that is going to start killing everybody because he thinks we're all bad and been torturing him? So I'm going to go with the police officer for the win.
All right. And your winner via knockout, Caleb Boatman. Amazing match. Man, that was good. Now, let's quick go to our post-match interviews. I'm going to go to our unfortunate second place finisher first. Andy, how are you feeling about this match?
Well, it's a little disappointing, obviously, when the judgments are going sort of 1-1 each way. You're just kind of hoping you get that little bit of luck that someone's going to swing it in your direction, and it didn't happen any time. But, everyone on this panel's judged a lot, so they know what they're doing. Caleb's argued a lot. He knows what he's doing, etc., etc. You guys need to watch some Coleman Francis films and bring shame upon yourselves, but it was good. It was good fun, good questions. Obviously disappointing when it never quite falls for you. Clearly you've done enough to split the voting, but just not quite enough of someone to just push over the edge like that. So that's a little bit of a shame, but we'll bounce back from it, I'm sure. So I don't know what I'm talking. It's just me, but
Hey, it happens. We've all been there before. But is there anyone you would like to face next? We're the season's winding down and we're getting into the tournament. If you get into the tournament, is there anyone like you would want to face potentially?
Yes, I would like to face a mute.
All right. Facing someone who cannot argue and has to write it down. I like that strategy. And now we'll go over to our winner today. Caleb, big win, knockout win. How are you feeling after this match?
Oh, I feel good. Andy played a great game. I think it was just, it's one of those things where it was a lot closer than the score would indicate. I got to admit, I had to BS my way through a lot of those arguments. I hadn't seen a single Coleman Francis or Frank Tashlin film. I thought I was going to lose that question. I just kind of had to make big generalizations and hope that I could just, kind of fake it till I make it per se, which is kind of what you have to do. You just have to make big statements and just fake your way into winning in these debates. And that's exactly what I did. Because let's face it, it's not about facts. Trivia is about facts. Trivia is about what do you know. This is about, can you convince me that you are right even when you're wrong? That's what this is, and I think I do a pretty good job at that. So, it played a great game, and I think judges did a great job judging, even when they didn't go my way, because I think it was one of those things where it's a lot of the questions could have gone either way. So I respect Andy, I respect the judges. A good job. As far as who I want to face next, that's a really great question. Honestly, I feel like Ryan O'Regan would kind of be fun to play. A couple other people, Nazaro would probably be fun to play. Eli McKeag, again, even though I've played him once already. Jake Damon, I don't know where he's been. I've played him twice, but why not make it 3 times?
All right. That's what we have to hear from Caleb Boatman coming off of a big win. Now let's hear what our judges have to say. Tony, what are your thoughts on this match? How are you feeling after that?
Yeah, it was a very good match. I think the score does tell a story that isn't true. I think that Caleb did a very good job, but Andy should have gotten some points there. I feel that it's a much closer match than on paper it shows. But both of these guys are absolute killers. In future matches, you've got to put them as a favorite, no matter what, really.
Mm-hmm. Now let's go to Matt. Matt, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking the same thing that Tony said. If you looked at this match on paper, you would think it was completely one-sided, but it just the slightest word could have pushed over either way. Sorry. It could have pushed this match to the total opposite. Andy, personally, I would have rather stolen Chewbacca myself, but just on the debate alone, it kind of leaned more towards Caleb, but I would personally rather have a big Wookiee hanging out at my house. I mean, I'm 6'8", to be able to look up to somebody would be nice, but honestly, I can't wait to see what these guys hold next. The tournament's coming, and you never know.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. This season is winding down, and then we're going to get into the tournament. I would say be on the lookout for these 2 competitors in particular. Both are strong competitors. Either of them could take, I don't know what the tournament bracket is shaping like, but if they're on it, I would say that these 2 are people who will either bust your bracket or take it all away. So with that being said, I'm Joe Harrison. For Matt, for Tony, for Caleb, for Andy, and for all of us here at Movie Battleground, good night.